Hello, and welcome to What is Innovation, the podcast that explores the reality of a word that is in danger of losing its meaning altogether. This podcast is produced by Outlast Consulting, LLC, a boutique consultancy that helps companies use innovation principles to solve their toughest business problems. I'm your host, Jared Simmons, and I'm so excited to have Annabel Mendez on the show today. Annabel Mendez is the founder of Aromalief vegan pain relief creams, with a mission to bring pain relief to women suffering from chronic pain by combining nature with science. Annabel is a mechanical engineer, psychologist, MBA, and mother of two that recently became a homeschool teacher due to the pandemic. That sounds like fun.
A hoot.
Annabel, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jared.
So, I'd like to start off with the same question for everyone, which is what is innovation?
Okay. There's so many books on innovation and people have so many ideas about it. And I'm sure that you've already gotten some great answers from other guests. And the way that I like to look at innovation is a little bit more from a human standpoint
Mm-hmm.
than necessarily a, a product or a machine. And when I think of innovation, I think that a critical component of it is what is the intent of the new idea, the new product, and the new philosophy. And I think that anything that is created new and different with the intent of helping somebody out other than yourself, in my opinion, is innovation. It's about moving humanity forward.
Well, that's great. I love that you have so many layers to that definition, and it seems like it could almost fit any number of situations.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that innovation can just be limited to a physical product. I think a lot of people, by narrowing down the definition, it really hurts us as a whole because I've heard so many people say things like, I'm just not innovative because maybe their profession is being a lawyer or maybe they're a librarian. But innovation can happen in so many other ways. And if we don't expand the definition, I think it really um, puts us in a position of not moving forward in the multiple dimensions that it can exist because we can't just be innovative in technology. We can't just be innovative in the traditional realms. We need to innovate in all different angles. We need to innovate in education. We need to innovate in knowledge, in thought process, in plays, books. I mean, everything that really enriches our life.
Well said, well said. And I think it's a matter of domain, but it's also a matter of you and I we grew up professionally in the same big company, and I think sometimes in big companies innovation gets siloed within the company.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who are responsible for innovation and then people who aren't, which has always been strange to me.
Yeah. And it puts a lot of pressure on the people that have the title of being innovative. And I think that is also something that is negative. And if you had everybody being in charge of innovation, imagine what can be possible. I mean, once you put the title on that one person, that one group, you have significantly limited what can be done in that organization.
Couldn't agree more. There's an innovation team, and then there's a current business team.
Right?
So tell me a bit. So we've talked about what innovation is. Tell me what it isn't.
So just thinking about the original idea of what I had about like positive intent, I think that when you create something intentionally to harm,
Mm.
it sets you back significantly. And what do I mean by that? I mean, there's so many talented people that have a lot of creativity and they use it for things that are to scam others.
Mm.
So, for example, I mean, the first person that created the I'm going to call up older folks and I'm going to pretend like I'm from the Social Security office to get them to give me their credit card.
Right.
Pretty creative person, not innovative. It sets back society. Anything that's setting back society is not innovative for as new and novel as it might seem. innovation definitely has to have a component of moving us forward and not setting us back.
So new and different doesn't equal innovation in your eye.
No, not unless it's moving us forward as a society.
And what does forward look like?
Great question. Great follow up question. I think that moving us forward means providing more opportunities for others, more opportunities for people at all levels of society, opportunities to make them whole as people, to create jobs, to have education, to have healthcare, to have joy.
Mm,
I mean, sometimes I think that we forget those simpler things too, like there has to be joy and happiness in life as well as economic prosperity. And that to me is we're where we're moving forward, where society as a whole is not destructive but constructive.
hmm.
I think also the environmental aspect of things is important too. Sometimes people do things that are harmful out of desperation.
Right.
And the more innovative that we can be as a society where people don't have to feel that desperation, I think the better off every person becomes, and the better off the planet becomes, the better off we can continue to sustain life in a meaningful way for years to come.
It's beautiful. Well said. And I think the key is, what I'm taking from what you're saying is that forward-looking view of um, society and people, and the human race, for lack of a better term. But feels like your definition of innovation um, is one that involves more than just yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it has to, right? So a lot of times I feel like when people are trying to be innovative, right? And what does trying to be innovative means? Like they are putting pressure on themselves to come up with something. If somebody's statement says, how do I come up with $1 million idea? You're not working towards innovation.
Hmm.
You have to ask yourself, how can I make life better for at least one other person than myself?
Right.
And then you can really get the ball rolling. And and that's important. When you come at it from the standpoint of helping others, then the innovation really becomes bigger and better than when the motivation is how can I make $1 million?
Right, right. And I would imagine it also keeps you kind of in problem solving mode versus, focused on how to generate revenue from something.
Yeah, because if you think about let's if you think about innovation from the standpoint of the scientific method, and your hypothesis and your background and everything has to do with $1 million, that's the problem that you're solving for, which is not really a problem. You're solving for an outcome.
Right, right,
And unless you reframe the question and everything else that has to do with the scientific method in the very plain, then you're not really going to get to solving anything that'll bring about the innovation.
I love that, and I wonder, since I've known you for a while, I wonder how, if 2020 Annabelle gave a beautiful, amazing answer, would that have been 2005, 2010 Annabelle's answer?
I don't think so. I think that my 2020 answer is based off of just experience
Hmm.
and having gone through other cycles. We've known each other since 2002,
Yeah.
which is a really, really long time. And we worked in research and development,
Yep.
and we had these titles that were be innovative, create the next test method, the next whatever initiative
Yeah.
we were going to be working on. And I would say that I have definitely matured since then, where I've always been curious. I've always been curious. And I think curiosity is a key part of being an innovator, because you're always trying to, the fact that you have to go out and search and do various iterations of whatever you're doing, like that's definitely key to innovation. But I think that the things that were important to me back then are not necessarily the things that are important to me now. Things like promotions
Hmm.
and raises. So you don't do it. I guess at that point, I wasn't really doing it for um, the betterment of things. It was more about the recognition.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, like I've really shifted that the definition, and I think it has also enhanced the quality of my work by being a problem solver to help others versus a problem solver for recognition.
Yeah. I think we all kind of, growing up in that environment, got kind of locked into you need to do X, Y, and Z to get, A, and and um, and it's just really cool to see, once you break out of that, the cool things you can do for the world.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think in 2020 specifically, it's even more in front of my face because of all the challenges that we're getting
Mhm.
this year.
Right.
And as an innovator, as a true innovator, it's always about how to make things better. And when things are going really, really bad, you can either fall into the trap of that's it, we're doomed, or you can really excel at honing into your innovation skills that you've had for a long time
Mm.
to push through that and really come out with something that is going to help the world get out of this phase, because it's going to take us a few years to get out of this phase that we're entering right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. And thinking about things in phases and, you know, being problem solving focused versus outcome focused. I think those are key in this current environment that we're living in because if you're just trying to replace, like you were saying, if you're just trying to replace the revenue or the money that you've missed out on, or trying to get the number of employees back up to the number you had before,
Hmm.
that's an outcome. It's not the problem.
Right. And I think we're all like, we could all fall victim to that. And I know for me, I had pretty lofty goals for this year. And when I look at my goal setting and I see that I'm not hitting the numbers that I should have hit based on whatever data I had available at the beginning of the year,
Right.
it becomes it becomes very overwhelming, and almost to the point where you question, why am I even doing this? But I think that what I've tried to refocus is on, well, what actions are you taking today? What actions are you taking this week? What actions are you taking this month?
Mm.
And I'm really trying not to look past 1 month. Where in the past, I would say I would look at a year out.
Right.
The mode that I'm in right now is like just looking at it month by month, week by week, and focusing on what I can control.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. And I think the element of what I'm hearing there is, yeah, I think you've always been very good at separating kind of what is uncertain versus what is unknowable.
Hmm.
And you know, this time next year is unknowable from where we sit.
Right.
But the next 30 days are close enough, and the world is less chaotic than it was, 6 months ago, 9 months ago. So the road in front of us is uncertain, but it's not unknowable at this point.
Right. We have at least a little bit of knowledge on stepping stones.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and that's all you can hope for, right? Like crossing that river with stepping on some little stones here and there that you know about. Where my original plan was more of like, okay, I have this giant bridge, let's lay it out.
Exactly, exactly. Just the positivity that you exude, and given that you are an entrepreneur and you are building this business, and we'll talk about that in a second. In this environment is inspiring and contagious because it's hard for everyone, and you're doing amazing things with your business and with the family, and so that's why we wanted to talk to you today, is get a view of kind of how you do that and what makes that possible for you. Can you tell me a bit about Aromalief?
Yeah, so Aromalief right now, which is really interesting, right? So Aromalief is a pivot from my original business. I've pivoted twice since I left corporate, and I think that's one of the things that is really important for people to understand, that when you become an entrepreneur, to say that you're gonna nail it the first time out, I think that, you know, they should go into the business of being a psychic, because it doesn't always happen like that. Like, most of the time things don't happen. And when you see those statistics that, like, I don't know, it's like 90% of businesses fail within the first 2 years or whatever,
Right.
it's only because people give up, and not necessarily because what you started isn't what you started with is not necessarily what you're going to end up with. So when I left P&G 6 years ago, can't believe it's already been 6 years, I
Wow.
actually started a marketing agency, and I was offering marketing services to customers. We were making websites. And then I had a customer that was in e-commerce
Mhm.
several years ago. And at some point, I decided that I wanted to go back to product innovation, and I didn't want to continue doing the marketing side of things. But what's really interested with that is that you would call my business a success, because the agency that I started, I still have that be my business entity.
Mm.
So it's been in existence for 6 years,
Right.
but it's not doing the same thing that I was doing 6 years ago.
Right.
3 years ago, I launched a pain relief cream company called WorkV. And it was really to help my mom that was suffering from chronic pain, because she had worked as a hairdresser for many years. And I just couldn't find a solution for her to gain back her mobility. So I launched um, WorkV, and the product itself
Mm.
was very good, but the marketing story, it just never got attraction.
Mhm.
It never got a following. It didn't have a niche. But I gained a lot of information that first year,
Right.
and I started talking to the few customers that I had.
Mhm.
I mean, it must have been like a couple hundred customers. I started talking to them. I started learning more about the industry, learning more about pain in women, and why was there so much more pain in women than men. And um, yet most of the products are really marketed towards men. They burn a lot, they smell.
Mhm.
It's for like the locker room, it's for like these athletes.
Right.
And then meanwhile, you have 90% of women. So 90% of people who suffer from fibromyalgia are women.
Wow.
And nobody's like really addressing those needs, because most doctors are men, and they just say things like, oh, maybe she's just exaggerating.
Mm.
Maybe the pain is not that bad, but it must be a hormonal thing.
Right.
I mean, there's still a lot of research that needs to be done in that area, but I learned from that. And this was a very tough time in my business, because WorkV had only been in existence for about a year and a half.
Mhm.
But I knew that I wasn't going to be able to grow it in the current form. And that's when I launched the next brand, which was Aromalief. And Aromalief was a project that actually took us about 6 months to launch, which was very fast, but that's because all the ideas were already there. Even the name Aromalief, it's the combination of aromatherapy and pain relief
Mm.
in one. We actually have that name trademarked. Um, we were able to register it, and it's so intuitive, but it really came from understanding the market, and then making that bold decision to launch a second brand, even though the first brand had only been around for a year and a half.
Right. Right.
But um, Aromaleaf has continued to grow, because we are really addressing that need of a woman who's suffering from chronic pain, and she wants a more natural option,
Mhm.
but also based on science.
Right.
So it's not just like, here's this magic potion,
Right.
rub it, and you will win the lottery. I feel like everybody's over promising. And what we try to do is research our ingredients as much as we can, so that we provide the relief that women suffering from chronic pain get without jeopardizing their overall health, which I think is a huge problem. Everybody's talked about the opioid crisis
Right.
in this country and elsewhere. And that was the biggest push to say, if you're going into this market, like, do it right, make it happen, launch that second brand. And I was very nervous when I launched the second brand because we are a self-funded company. This
Right.
is something that my husband and I have funded every single dollar
Wow.
that has gone into it. We compete against massive, massive pharmaceuticals in the space
Yeah. Yeah.
that have unlimited budgets. And we really count on word of mouth and just having a superior solution for these women and understanding them, not just from what do they buy, where do they shop, but being compassionate. I think that the way that we answer our emails, the way that we structure our blogs, it's coming from a point that really lets them know we understand your pain.
Mm-hmm.
We're here for you. We're not going to judge you, and we're not going to try to steal your money. And I think that has really helped us to grow our business and to have such loyal fans coming back. I mean, who can say that a pain relief cream has fans? But the way these women talk about
Yeah.
it and the way that we've been able to impact their lives, it is like they are fans, and I think that's important. Any category can really create loyal customers that love your product, even when it's something um, that you wish they didn't have,
Right.
right? So yes, my business is to sell pain relief creams, but and we've had this happen where we have a customer saying, "Hey, listen, I need to cancel your subscription because I feel great." And to me, that's like, wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That is amazing because the ultimate goal is for them to find pain relief. And maybe that customer, I'm not going to earn their business, but she'll tell other people. And just having that satisfaction on days when it's really difficult to continue with the business, because we've had numerous setbacks,
Yeah.
like every business does, but it helps me to carry forward because I know that I've been able to help at least one person, and I'll probably be able to help another person.
That fits your definition of innovation, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Help at least one person.
Yeah. Sometimes, that's it. It always starts with one person.
Yeah.
One person. I'm much, and I tell this to my kids all the time. I'm like, you matter. Every person matters, and I think that when people stop believing that, that's when things start to go wrong. But I think that every single person matters. Every single person can make a difference, and it everything happens by one at a time
Yeah. Yeah.
till it like really catches on.
Such an inspiring story, Annabelle. And I've had the pleasure of kind of seeing snapshots along the way, but it's always amazing every time we talk how much different and how much evolution there's been in what you do, but then how much consistency there is in that. If you just listen to your story about just the last 6 years, it's really just a story of focusing and honing and getting down to kind of the essence of what it is, what problem you're trying to solve for the world, what value you're trying to add, and things have come along the way. It hasn't been easy, but you've built a brand and it's continuing to grow, and that is because you have identified a problem you wanted to solve for the world, and you're smart and you're relentless, and I know you're going to solve it.
Thank you. And I think that the other part here too is having the people around you that support you. So today we're doing this podcast, but I know that when I've texted you and I'm like, the world is falling apart, and you're coaching to overcome these um these emotions, because business is very emotional too. You have the numbers and you have the things that are very tangible, but a very large component is also like managing the emotion through rational thinking. And I think that's the part that you have helped me with the most, because you're very calm, and you can see it from an outside perspective, and just kind of, we can talk through how do we get to the next step. But I've had things like manufacturer issues, um, having to completely change my sourcing, having to, I mean, even at the beginning of this year, I mean, my manufacturers were completely booked solid making hand sanitizer, and I did not have product for about a month.
How about that?
And a brand that was like growing is, I mean, that's like the kiss of death. All your traction kind of like stops the momentum, but it's part of it's part of business. So we created this plan. We let our customers know how things were being delayed, and how we were going to do our best to get them their product, because that's the other thing. When you're in pain relief, it's a responsibility. At least I feel like it's a responsibility. If I'm not delivering that product for that person, they're not they're going to not feel well
Right,
for that amount of time.
right.
And so my constant thought is, okay, how do I get this product to them so that they continue to feel well, to improve, to carry out with their life? I mean, for some people, it's to the point where it helps them to get out of bed for the day. So when you have that sense of like purpose, it really helps you to overcome these things. But also having the right guidance, the right counsel during times where things are very difficult, I think that's like really, really important.
Yeah, things like that are indispensable. I know you played that role for me as well, and other folks. The entrepreneur life is it's a team sport. You may
Hmm. Yep.
be a company of one, but it's still a team sport. So I can't let you get away without asking one last question about advice. Your perspective has evolved, as you said, it has evolved and changed over the course of your career. Um, what advice do you have for people who are young in their career, or just innovators of any kind, people who are interested in the space and thinking about how to be more innovative?
I think that learning is the most important thing to do, and learning from every single experience, because what that allows you to do is to build on little building blocks. So, for example, what I learned at P&G, I was able to apply for the marketing agency.
Hmm.
What I learned in the marketing agency, I was able to apply for the first screen. What I learned for the second screen. So none of it is a throwaway.
Hmm.
And I think that is one of the very few things in life that it's 100% guaranteed. Any skill that you're learning, any training that you're taking, any opportunity to learn is definitely one that you should be taking along the way. So I think that's part of it. The other piece too is just know that you're on the right path. You don't know what that path is,
Right.
but just know that you're on the right path, especially when you want to give up,
Mm. Yeah.
because the road is unknown. But just knowing that you're on a path to go somewhere, I think that really helps out quite a bit. But I've always been a very avid learner of multiple skills, and not succumb to just living like a sedentary life. I think that one of the things that I try to protect myself always is to continue to make my own decisions on how I spend my time. And I don't want to say, like, wow, it just happened. Life just happened.
Right.
Like, I think that for me, it's continuous learning. So be patient. Where you're at today may not necessarily be where you will be tomorrow or a few years from now, but always stay true to who you are,
Hmm.
because that's something else that has happened. I was offered to. for somebody to buy my formula. They were going to completely change it and become something that I knew was not going to be right for the consumer. And I passed up on that opportunity because it's not all about money.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a tough.
It's always about doing what you feel is the right thing to do. So I wish everybody much success, but more than that, be resilient and seek out help when you need to, and learn. Just keep learning, whether it's a book from the library or a little video that you might watch. It's when you stop doing those things that you fall into the abyss. But as long as you're still telling yourself, okay, I'm going to learn one new thing today, then you'll continue on the path to where you want to be.
Keep learning. I like it. That's I love that aspect of the keep learning, and also the patience you mentioned, because innovation and patience, entrepreneurship and patience don't always go hand in hand in the public kind of interpretation of what those things are. But it plays a critical role. You can only control so much, and it's going to come at some things are just going to come at their own pace.
Yep.
Annabelle, thank you so much for your time today. I'm so excited other people get to benefit from your thoughts the way I do all the time.
Thank you, Jared.
Look forward to talking again soon. Take care. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this week's show. You can drop us a line on Twitter at Outlast LLC. That's OUTLAST LLC. Or follow us on LinkedIn, where we're Outlast Consulting. Until next time, keep innovating, whatever that means.